At 29 years old, Kechi embodies what it means to be a survivor. She was one of two that survived a Nigerian plane crash that took the lives of 107 people. She says that singing got her through her darkest of days. Now, as a burn survivor, she's recognized for her strength and her music. She appeared on America's Got Talent, and Simon Cowell gave her the golden buzzer after a breathtaking performance. In that moment, Kechi realized the true power of her voice in more ways than one. Kechi, it's an honor and a privilege to speak with you today. Thanks for being on the show. I guess let's start at the very beginning. Tell
All
us
right.
about your life growing up in Nigeria.
Okay. Growing up in Nigeria was a lot of fun for me. I was an only child for a while, until I was 11 years old when my little sister was born. But I had a great childhood. Have amazing parents who, we didn't have much. We're very middle class, but they never made me feel like I wanted for anything. They took care of me, they spoiled me, and I had a very close relationship with not just my parents but my cousins. So my extended family was a big part of my life from when I was a kid. They were my first friends, my cousins and things like that. And I just remember being a really happy kid. I remember loving, just being with family a lot, and of course that played a huge role in the support system that I had available to me, later on in life, and what was to come. But yeah, I had a great childhood. I grew up, started high school in Nigeria as well, and made friends there that ended up being my lifelong friends, basically.
That's awesome.
So it was a cool time, more good than bad for sure. But obviously, growing up as a teenager anywhere, it's going to have its challenges,
It's
regardless.
difficult.
And yeah, I remember, having some harsh times, but just ultimately remembering the good stuff was definitely outweighed the bad stuff, basically. Yeah. So that was my childhood before the accident happened, before I turned 16. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were 16 years old when that day occurred, and
Yeah.
maybe before we go into that
Mhm.
story, what was the reason that you were on that flight that day?
So I went to a boarding high school, right? And it was a plane ride away from where I lived. So it was a very popular boarding school, and kids from all over the country would fly in from wherever they lived to get to school, or they would drive in or take a bus in. So we were a lot of us that went to that school came from different parts of Nigeria. So it was very typical
Mhm.
to fly back and forth, to and from school. So that was what the flight was. We were just heading home. It was after the fall semester was over, and a bunch of us who lived in the same area usually take the same plane or bus to get home. And we used to use the bus at first, but it was like a 12-hour journey. So when we started using planes, it became obviously so much faster. So it
Yeah.
wasn't anything unusual being on that flight that day. It was literally routine to be on the
Wow.
plane going home, after the fall semester for the Christmas holidays.
Mm. I bet you were so excited to go home, especially for Christmas and
I mean, yeah, it was a big deal. Anytime leaving school, leaving campus was a big deal because
yeah.
we didn't get to leave until, end of semester, literally. So, yeah, I was definitely very excited to get home, but also kind of nervous because I remember SATs were coming up, and I knew
Oof.
that was gonna be my study break, basically. So yeah, that was also on my mind at the time.
Definitely, I know. Things to think about when you're a teenager. SATs, high schools, oh
Yep,
man. All that stuff. So
yep, yep, yep.
when you got to the airport that day, was it a normal day? Was it beautiful out? Was it
It was sunny,
stormy?
yeah. Really, it's always typically always sunny back home, wherever
Yeah.
you are. It was a really hot day. I remember it being hot. I remember it was pretty normal to me. Really, I just don't really remember much else except, talking to my friends, saying goodbye, hanging out with the my closest friend that typically went on this journey with me. We were in the same class, but also we were friends, and we usually end up hanging out whenever we travel, going home and coming back to
Mhm.
school. So I remember just hanging out with her, talking with her, laughing with her. I remember just being with other kids from my school, and just, being in that group and waiting for the flight in the airport lounge. I remember it was just, for me, my perspective, it was just a regular day. There was nothing weird that made me feel like this was going to be, a fateful day for any reason.
Gosh. So, I can't even imagine. So you just got on the plane regularly, took off, and everything was fine? I mean, what do you remember?
I remember feeling like everything was normal for the first, maybe like first hour. The flight was an hour and a half. And for the
Mhm.
first hour and like maybe 15 minutes, it was just normal. There was nothing weird. I got on the plane, everything was fine. It took off just fine. I was sitting in an aisle seat. I was in the aisle seat next to my friend. She was in the aisle seat next to me. And I remember we didn't even talk much during the flight because we're so tired. The flight had been delayed for hours on end. So by the time we got on the plane, we were so exhausted just from sitting
Yeah.
around. I remember just sitting there and just relaxing and just thinking about how I was gonna get home and complain to my mom about not getting me a window seat like I usually like. And that was it. Like just
Yeah.
mundane stuff that was just on my mind, nothing unusual. The unusual stuff started only after the pilot made the announcement that we would be descending pretty soon, to start, our approach into the airport. And I remember that the turbulence when it started, it was normal at first, but then that it was from that point on, like 15 minutes or so left in the flight, that things started to get really just weird.
Mm,
Yeah.
I so I obviously don't have the experience that you have, but I've always been such a nervous flyer. Like I fly all the time, and like I am like that person that's like, oh my gosh, I'm always like ah. So I would be freaking out. Like if a plane hits something, I'm like, oh my god, like. But going through that, and you're just like, all right, we're hitting turbulence,
hmm
and was the pilot trying to land when?
It seemed like he was. So I remember looking out the window and not being able to see anything except clouds, just lots of clouds. So we must have been like in the middle of like the clouds trying to come down. And I remember that it just kept going and getting worse. And no one really wanted to say anything because I mean, I'm pretty sure no one had ever experienced anything like this before. I myself, I mean, up until that point, I'd flown a lot. Like it was regular. Like it's the number one way to get around, like in
Mhm.
Nigeria as well, also here as well. It's just a way of just a mode of transport. It's nothing weird. So I have never had any reason before that moment to think anything special about flying. It was just another way to travel to me up until that point. And that's not because plane crashes hadn't like in Nigeria, which is still a developing country, it's something that actually happens a lot, like plane crashes. So it's not like it's something that's so unusual that I therefore have no reason to think that anything would happen. It's just you just never get on the plane thinking it's something that'll happen. It happens to other people.
Yeah.
You hear about it. You never ever think it's going to happen to you. And especially when you're a kid, you're not your mind just never goes there.
Mhm.
So even though we'd had those kind of things happen in Nigeria before, and there was a lull of like no traveling for a long time after like the major one that happened like when I was like 5. I remember no one was traveling by air for like years. So by
Wow.
the time I got to high school, this was like 6, 7 years later, everything was back to normal. People were flying again. So it wasn't anything weird. But I remember like the turbulence was just like getting more and more extreme, and people started feeling like a little like, just kind of shifting their seats and stuff. I couldn't see anything out the window. It was just very cloudy, very gray. And then a lady at the back of the plane kind of screamed, like, is this plane trying to land? Like everyone heard her like really audibly. And then the turbulence just kept getting worse. And then people could kind of just I guess there was just like this moment where everyone just kind of realized that something was really wrong, like this was not normal. And so after she screamed, she triggered everyone, and everyone started like it was just like chaos. People were just like panicking, screaming, and I don't remember like anything happening, like stuff like dropping from the ceiling of the plane or anything like that. I just remember like a lot of panic shouting, people screaming like Jesus, and everyone just kind of just a lot of like chaos, no moving around, just screaming. And I remember just sitting there in my seat, like, what is happening? Is this real? Like, is this? I could not like reconcile that this was reality. It was just surreal. And I just remember being in awe. Like, is
Mhm.
this actually happening? Like, am I actually in this situation? Like, for real?
Yeah.
And I remember looking. to my right, and my friend was looking at me, and we held hands. And I remember, like, she was like, "What do we do? Like, well, what is this?" No. And then I was just like, I don't know, maybe we should pray. And I remember saying that, and it was like a very out of body. I remember hearing myself say that, but not really knowing what I was saying. It's a very weird thing to try to explain, but I was
Mhm.
just not myself in that moment. I was kind of like looking at myself as everything was happening. It was a very strange, like surreal moment. And that's literally my last memory before there was this like screeching, like metal scraping sound that just kind of filled my head. And then it was just black, just darkness, just completely dark. And my next memory after that is shouting and screaming lying on the gurney about pressure on my hands and my legs. Like I could feel so much pressure. I thought that was a dream as well. My mom confirmed that that actually was real. But then right after that memory is opening my eyes, and I was in the hospital, and I was in South Africa, and 5 weeks had passed, and I was opening my eyes from a coma. So everything else I was filled in by people around me that were around me, after it happened. But yeah, that's what happened.
Wow. Oh, I can't imagine. You wake up and you're in the hospital,
Mhm.
and did they tell you, like, what had happened when you first woke up, or did they kinda give you time?
So it was interesting because I opened my eyes knowing exactly what had happened, and that was because in my subconscious, I would hear my mom talking to me. So she would talk to me. I would hear her voice even while I was like in that coma. And she would be telling me, where I was, what had happened, and that I was going to be okay. She would talk to me. She would sing to me. And I remembered all these things. And so I opened my eyes. I knew what had happened. I remembered her saying what had happened. So I didn't wake up in a panic or anything. I knew I had been in a plane crash. I knew that I was badly injured because of the accident, and I knew that I was in South Africa in a hospital called Mill Park Hospital, and I knew that she believed I was going to be okay. So I opened my eyes knowing these things, and that was just all because of her, because of all her, just the way that she kept me, and she just kept talking to me, and just she had no idea if I would hear her or not. There was no guarantee, but I did. I heard everything she said. And so I opened my eyes knowing what had happened. I didn't know the details. I didn't know how many people survived. I didn't know how badly I was burned. I just knew I just knew in general why I was in the situation I was in. And apparently that was really important too, because some people can wake up in a panic, still kind of reacting to the trauma that put them in that situation. So that's definitely something that I'm grateful to God for, that I didn't wake up, confused and distraught and disoriented, from what had happened.
Oh, I can't imagine. They always say, and, if someone's, like, in a comatose, if you will, if that's the right word, that they
Yes,
can hear
comatose.
you. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like
There's always the chance. Yeah.
yeah, wow, wow. So God bless your mom for being there
Oh
and
yeah,
talking to you. She sounds like an incredible lady.
she is.
So I don't doubt it. So you find out your mom's been talking to you. When did you find out that I believe there was 60 of your classmates on board with you?
Hmm.
When did you find that out?
About 4 months in, that's when they decided that I was physically and psychologically, emotionally, mentally prepared to hear the truth, the full truth about what had happened. And so that was something that yeah, the counselor and the psychologist, psychiatrist, and my mom, they were there when they broke the news to me about the fact that because up until that moment I thought everyone was alive. I thought everyone had made it. I thought, it would just be a matter of time until I see my friends again. I thought that, if I was alive, yes, I was badly injured, but that means everyone else is probably maybe just the way I am, or maybe a little better, but not gone. So that was definitely the worst part of everything, for sure. Hearing the truth about how they were all gone, not just not just like the kids, like everyone, like my friends and everyone that was in the plane with me from my school, but like only two people, like only one other person. It just didn't make any sense to me, and put me in a state of deep depression for a while before I was able to recover from that, for sure. It was the worst part of. it was worse than anything that had happened so far for sure.
Not only I'm sure you're in a lot of pain as well, so, you're dealing with physical pain and emotional pain. What kept you going?
A number of factors worked to just keep me moving forward, to keep me strong. Number one was my mom for sure. She was quite literally my rock, from even before I opened my eyes. She'd been there for me, and never left my side. She was just this incredible, always there to pray with me, to pray for me, to read the Bible to me, to read anything to me, to talk to me, and so just knowing that I had her and I had her kind of support, was definitely something that helped me in that really hard time. Another thing was the rest of my family, honestly. Honestly, I just had the best support system that was so vital in helping me find myself, when I felt like I was lost and confused after hearing what like the truth about what happened.
Mhm.
Another thing was my faith for sure, which went through a major revival after the accident happened. I was born into a Christian home and I was born into a Christian family. So growing up, going to church and, going to fellowship and things like that was a part of my life, but not because I chose it, but because my family was that way. So it wasn't anything special to me until after the fact, after the accident, when I learned in a very direct way that there's just some things people can't do for you. At a
Mhm.
point you're gonna have to make a choice for yourself what you want to believe. And that moment came for me after the accident when I was just beginning to learn that, there's just some stuff that there's some pain that, medication can't reach, and there's some things that need to heal inside of all of us that can only happen through some kind of um whatever your belief system is and whatever you get your inner peace from, basically. And so for me, that was my faith. That became my faith. And that was because of the kind of family I had who never pushed me to believe anything that, and they didn't force me into anything. It just kind of happened naturally. I just found myself drifting toward God and wanting to have the peace that I got from just knowledge of him. So that was also a really big part of my recovery, not just physically, or rather not only physically, but mostly mentally and emotionally. And so that played a big role also in my healing from the news that, all those kids and all my friends were gone. So all these factors kind of came together
Mhm.
to kind of help me to find the strength to understand what role this entire situation would play in my life. Was I going to let it cripple me? Was I going to let it keep me in depression? Was I going to let it, was I going to spend my life asking why, basically, and trying to figure out why this happened? Or was I going to find a way to keep their memories alive through my life that was saved? So yeah, I had to make that decision at some point, and that was the point that I made it.
I'm sure that was a very difficult decision to come to, and clearly you are so strong, and, being one of 2, so you and someone else,
Yeah.
how has your relationship been with the other survivor?
So she was someone I didn't know before the accident. She was just another passenger. But obviously after it happened, and after I was in South Africa, like right
Mhm.
after the accident happened, they flew me in South Africa because I had a 65%. I had third-degree burns over 65% of my body. So that just basically means everything burned from top to bottom except my torso. My tummy and my back didn't burn. That's it. And so Nigeria, we didn't have the kind of healthcare, like the medical equipment that would be necessary to care for like my level of burns. So I had to be taken to the nearest place that did, and that was Johannesburg in South Africa. Now, the other person that survived, she did not sustain any burns or injuries. She broke a bone, I believe, but that was the extent of her injuries. So thank God she didn't have to deal with any of that I had to deal with. But she had to deal with a lot more psychological and mental trauma because while I dealt with mostly the physical stuff, I don't really remember the actual crash, which I
Mhm.
think is a blessing because I mean I don't really need that kind of memory. I think it would just be so difficult for me to live life knowing all that. But she didn't retain any physical injuries, but she remembers everything. She never passed out. So her kind of scars are very different from mine and cause her to just want to withdraw from the world and just not even be. So her story, just her path was completely different from mine, really. So I met her a lot of times after the accident happened. After I came back from South Africa, I was there for 7 months, came back to Nigeria briefly, and then came over to America. So during that interval when I was in Nigeria, I met her. She came, she met my family. She became very close to my family. We talked a lot. We connected. We prayed together. We just kind of, she's the one other person, from this tragedy. She's the only person who would truly understand the depth of what happened, on a personal note, as personal as me. So we connected on that. But then after I moved here to America, I we lost touch for a while. But I would hear about how she was doing good and how she got married, she had a kid, and she was doing well. And honestly, just knowing that she was doing well was enough for me to just keep moving because I was happy she was doing well, and I knew she was happy I was doing well and getting better as well. But I did reconnect with her when I went back home last year in Nigeria. That was
How
the
was
first time I've
that?
seen her since I moved. Yeah, and we she came for an event that I was singing at, and it was just the most significant moment for both of us to see each other after such a long time. So yeah, so we reconnected last year, basically.
Wow, reconnected last year. And have you guys kept in touch since?
hmm
Incredible. So you are in America now. Is she
Yes,
still in
in Nigeria.
Nigeria?
Yes,
Okay. Wow. So, well, hopefully she'll get to come visit you here sometime.
that would be great. She does not fly, and yeah, she can't. It's a hurdle for her, like a major one, and obviously directly ties to the fact that she can remember everything that happened that day. She remembers everything about how everything happened. So it's different for me, for sure. It's different for her than it is for me, with our approach and our just the way that we think
Mhm.
regarding flying. So I really pray that it's something she can overcome in this lifetime, but so far, she just can't. She says she just can't. Yeah.
Oh, I can't imagine.
I can't either, honestly.
So, how do you feel when you get on? Because you're speaking and your life is just, you're just such a role model. It's just, and I'm sure you travel literally all the time. How do you feel about traveling now?
Honestly, I never got a chance to feel a type of way about it because right after the accident happened, I we had to fly to South Africa to get the treatment, had to fly back to Nigeria, had to fly here to America. It just seemed like something that was unavoidable, for me. It seemed like a part of life that like I just couldn't ignore or not like participating if I wanted to get better, if I wanted to recover from what happened to me. So it's just a weird, just ironic really that it was something I had to do like right after what happened, you know.
Yeah.
So while I do not remember that flight though to South Africa or the one coming back to Nigeria, I do remember the one coming here from Nigeria, you know. And I remember just feeling like that, it's just like,
Yeah.
what am I supposed
Typical.
to do? Am I
Mhm.
just not gonna, I mean, I had to come here to get treatment. I had to come here to get, if I wanted to get better, I had to. And so, flying just seemed like, well, I mean, if I can't avoid it, then what am I supposed to do? I can't, I certainly cannot go around being afraid of it every single time I have to be on the plane. That would just be so stressful and so exhausting. So, I just got this mentality like, hey, the reason why people are afraid of this is because they're scared it's gonna crash, and it's already happened to me. I've already experienced the worst thing that can happen from flying, so it's already gone. It's already done. So what else is there, literally? So that was just my attitude from the start. Like the worst has already happened, and we're still here. So let's just it's just a fact of life that it's happened. So just move on. And the chances of it happening again are pretty slim to none. But even if it did, at that point I'd just be like, hey, look, I'm done. It's cool, whatever. I mean, I guess this is how I'm supposed to go. Cool, whatever. Like literally, that was my mentality at the start. I just felt like it is what it is. We have to travel to get to places. And honestly, if I want to live a life that's full, I want to live a life where I say that I say all these things about wanting to live my life for the kids that passed away, live my life in a way that would make them proud, that would make the loved ones that they left behind proud. How am I going to do that if I only go places I can drive and walk to? It's just not going to work that way. Plus,
Amen.
if I wanted to be realistic too, I mean, statistics, it's still the safest way to travel.
It
Like,
is.
despite what happened, the oddest, like the rarest thing happened with me for sure. But like even then, people still die every day from just like driving,
Hmm.
more than flying anywhere in the world. So that also kind of helped me to kind of think about just the fact that, it's still safest, like despite what happened to me. So I just kind of all these things just played together to allow me to just keep flying. And then it now turned out that, I would end up in a career that would require me to do it like almost every day. So it just
It
it
just,
just,
yep.
it just seemed like, hey, okay, God, I mean, let's just do this. Let's keep doing this. So I think the more I flew, and then, as so after I moved here, I would still have to like, do like, local flights here and there. And it just also, flying within America is completely different from flying in Nigeria. There's just a sense, you just know that the industry is just safer here too, and just in general than
Yeah.
in a third world country. So that also adds to me not, worrying too much about flying. I will say that in the beginning, it used to be, I used to, because I've always been in awe of I've always enjoyed it personally. So it really sucked that, I was in a plane crash, but like that didn't, like that wasn't, I didn't lose that element of awe that I always get whenever like we're in the air. I just think it's really cool. But landing, for a while in the beginning, for a few years, it was definitely, there was a reflexive reaction where I would just kind of like feel like I had to hold on to something right before the wheels hit the ground when we're
Hmm.
landing. Yeah, and I know that's from, definitely from the accident. That's something I can't remember probably, but that even that has stopped. Like over time, that stopped happening as well. So
Wow.
yeah, I mean, I just figure, you got to get to places. Like
Yeah.
that's just the TLDR of it. You have to get around.
Yeah. You got to
You
keep
got to
living
go
your life.
places. You got to live your life. So what are you gonna do?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're living your life clearly, and the big man upstairs is definitely looking out for you. So how did this singing career begin? I know you've always sung, but when were you like, I'm gonna make a career out of this?
So funny is that the funny thing is that I never actually believed that I would be able to make music a career, no matter how much I loved singing. Honestly, it was a hobby for a while. Before the accident, I loved singing, yes, but my voice became what it is now, or got on the path to what it is now after the accident. Something changed for sure because of the accident that I can't really explain. Something happened that changed my voice. And I know for sure it's real because I remember opening my mouth to sing for the first time after, and my mom just looking like, what was that? That's not how you used to sound. Like what? And I remember being like, oh my gosh, like what is
What
that?
is
Like what?
this?
Like it was just this weird thing that happened. And for someone like me that just loved music so much, and for whom music was such a huge part of her healing, it was such a joy to be able to enjoy it in this way as well, to be able to sing along more confidently to the songs that I love. And so it just became a part of my healing. It was my main escape from everything. It was the one thing I could do regardless of what was going on with me. I had my voice, even if I was lying down there in extreme pain or I couldn't move because of bandages or whatever, I could still sing. I could still express myself in this way. So it became such an important part of my life, such a big part of my core and who I was. And after I moved to America, it became a part of my therapy. Literally, they made music therapy a part of my therapy. So I was so happy to have this way to express myself because it kind of it I feel like it healed parts of me that other things could not reach, like surgery couldn't reach that. And so that's what music was to me. And so after I moved here, I was here in 2007, lived here, started going to school here, went to college, and just music was just a hobby all that time. Of course, I had dreams growing up that I would sing on a stage one day in front of
Yeah.
people that knew my music, and I would put it on. My dad bought me a karaoke machine when I moved to America, and so I would just literally, it's like next to me, like I
Oh,
still have it, It was my biggest fun pastime. After I have surgery, once I can move, I'm like on that thing singing. So that was just my favorite thing to do. But was I ever going to turn into this career? Like it was just never going to be turned into a career because I didn't think I had a chance before the accident. Now that it happened and I look so different, I just felt like there's just no way. There's just never going to be a chance for me to get on get on the TV. Like it's just never going to happen. So I mean, everything that happened with America's Got Talent was a complete surprise. First of all, I didn't even sign up for myself. My friend signed me up without telling me because she knew I would
Friends.
never do it. Like I just would never put myself out there. But she just believed in me. She believed in my voice in a way that I still struggle to sometimes now. And because of that belief she had in me and in my singing, I was able to be on that platform. And being on that platform, seeing how people responded to me singing, made me dream of maybe having a music career, maybe having a career where I go around singing and people actually care about what I sing. So honestly, I think God just used my friend to change my life and allowed me to make a career out of my favorite thing to do. So I'm I just feel extremely grateful and blessed every day, honestly.
Course, yeah, I watching you sing the first time, I just got chills, and everyone's standing up and cheering for you, I was like, "Oh my goodness," like, I can't imagine how that must have felt, and when Simon hit that golden buzzer, what went through your mind?
Look, I still can't even believe that happened. Like thinking about it now and trying to put myself in that place, I was just in awe. Like I couldn't believe that he did that. I couldn't believe that, he felt like my singing was, worth that response. I just bawled. I was just crying and just so grateful and so humbled, and just my heart was just so full of so many emotions at the same time. And I just felt like that was just the sweetest thing he could have done for me. He wanted to validate me in the best way he knew how. And I will just always be grateful for that. I remember just feeling like disbelief, shock, happiness, confusion, more shock. I was just like, oh my God, like
What?
even as the confetti was flying around, I was like, is this real? Like, is this for real? Oh man, it was one of the most overwhelming moments of my life for sure. That he did that for me. That was a gift for sure. And yeah, I was super, super happy.
Yeah, why you just oh my god, I can't even imagine, like, just
I was
that will
shaking,
never
like,
leave
is
you.
this like what is like I was like, is this for real? I just remember just uncontrollable tears.
Wow,
Oh
oh, I'm
my
sure.
gosh. It was cool.
Wow.
It was fun.
How did that moment change your life forever?
That moment made me feel like maybe I can do this. Maybe I can make music a career. Maybe there's a place for me in this industry. And maybe if there's no place, maybe I can make one for myself. You know? Maybe I can make a place for someone that looks like me in an industry that is so well, at least believed to be so focused on not just the talent but also having the right look. The world is changing, people are changing, mindsets are changing, and a lot more people are accepting difference. People are understanding that it's good to be different. And they're learning, we're learning how to embrace uniqueness and differences. People are seeing that we're not all the same and we shouldn't be. So maybe there's a place for me in a world like this, you know where the entertainment industry isn't just made up of cookie cutter people, but it's made up of different kinds of people, because that's what the world is made up of, different kinds of people. So I just felt like, man, like if someone like Simon can, give me this buzzer, and thinks that, my voice has earned this kind of reward, then I should definitely use every opportunity I can to make something out of this. At the very least, so I can say that I gave it my best shot. You know, I want to be able to do that, to say I gave it my best shot. So, I definitely just feel more motivated to pursue music more seriously, and do something with his voice and see what happens. See what happens. Yeah. So that's where I'm at right now, trying to see what happens.
Definitely. Well, things are definitely happening. And speaking of other things that are happening, you are an advocate for so many things. And I know we talked a little bit just about like anti-bullying. So, how have you ever had someone, or people try to like bully you, even despite all that you've been through?
Mm. So let's see, like bullying, yeah, bullying is something that hits really close to home because I didn't experience it personally a lot growing up. But after we moved here to America, my little sister went through a really difficult time because of it. Adjusting here to life here was extremely difficult for her. We moved so many times because of what happened to me before we even moved to America. She'd already been bounced around like three different schools while I was trying to get better, and that didn't help her. She couldn't make any solid friendships because she would move to a different school within like a few years. So when we moved here, she was 6 years old and
Mm,
had already been to like three different like grade schools. So moving here and then trying to adjust to another school, yet another school, and then sounding obviously different from how people sound over here, with our heavily accented English. She just she was thrust into a brand new situation, forced to adapt, and obviously was the new girl again, was the odd one out because she sounded different from everyone, and was in a place where she was desperate to make friends. So that combination made her extremely vulnerable and easy to be picked on by people around her, and that's exactly what happened. So that was such a huge part of, like, just I remember, like, this is when we lived in Galveston, Texas, because I was living next, we had to live close to the hospital that was taking care of me. And I just remember that being a really hard time in our lives, myself, my mom, my dad, my sister. We did our best to just encourage her and try to teach her self-love and to just not be so focused on making friends, and understand that you don't force something like that. You can't, the minute you have to force it, it's not real. And so to teach this to a, what, 7 8 year old kid was just the hardest thing. So she went through a lot, really. And so seeing that, I didn't like that at all. I hated that, and I did my best to just always try to be a good role model for her and positive reinforcement and all that kind of stuff. And then she just blossomed, after a while. She just started like to internalize the things that we told her and started to believe them about herself too, not needing validation from anyone, not needing to force friendships. And then when we moved to Pearland and she started middle school here, she just stopped trying so hard. And then she just naturally found a group of people that, were like-minded, and then those are her friends now. So, I feel like she's a success story, and I really want, I never want what happened to her to happen to anyone else that I know or anyone I don't know. So if I can use my platform as a way to prevent that from happening to other people, I will do whatever I can. But then there's also the added part of, being a burn survivor and understanding that a lot of people that are like me, that look like me, that have gone through, that have scars like me, um, also go through a lot of, issues, with just how do I say, kind of getting them to kind of be reintroduced to society, looking so different from people in society. I know that a lot of people go through, I know people who have gone through a lot of hardships because of that. Personally, as a burn survivor, I did not go through any bullying based on my looks that I know of. I
mhm.
don't know what people say behind my back, but
It
I
doesn't
can't
matter
concern
what they
myself
say.
with that. Exactly. I can't concern myself with what I don't even know. But to my face, and the people are like, I just had so many amazing people around me that it just I feel like I was shielded from any kind of negative thing that could have been happening. So I want that to be the case for other burn survivors too. So within bullying prevention, there is also that special group of people that my heart goes out to. And I want to use my story and my voice and just my life as a way to show them that they don't have to care about any of that stuff. And none of that needs to hold them back from living their lives. And no one needs to be concerned about the things that people they don't know say. Like, who cares what a stranger said? They don't even matter to you or qualify any part of your life in a positive way. So why should we should learn how to not be concerned with things that strangers say. Now, people that we do care about, if they're the ones that are bullying you, that's a whole different story and something
Hmm.
that needs to be dealt with. So, that's really what my story on becoming a bullying prevention activist is, just having that personal tied to it with my sister, and then being a burn survivor, looking so different and knowing that people get bullied based on how different they look. That's something that I feel very strongly about.
It's incredible. Yeah, bullying is awful, and especially, as a burn survivor, do you find that were there ever moments when you're like, "Hey, I feel like I need to look a certain way?" I mean, I'm sure body image just like,
Mm,
what advice do you have for
mm,
people who feel like they have to look like something that they're not, and how to be confident?
mm. Let me see. Honestly, I feel like we live in a world that is ever changing. Standards are ever changing. Beauty standards, most especially. Today, slim thick is what's in. That's the look everyone's you know will let you think that's what's going. That's what social media makes you feel like is what's in, basically. But I remember growing up when it was like skinny and tall. I remember there was a phase when it was all about looking like you were basically anorexic. I feel like it's a cycle. It changes all the time, and with the changes that come with beauty standards, come the changes in people's opinions about beauty. So if beauty is something that's so subjective, if physical appearance is something that that people change their opinion on so often, then it is therefore extremely dangerous to ident to tie your self-image to something that is ever changing. So that means that every time standards change, every time people's opinions change, you have to adapt, you have to change, and then you just end up not even knowing who you are anymore. You end up with a like a confused identity because you keep trying to adjust yourself to change and fit whatever the standard is, the trending standard is. And it's just such a scary way to live your life. I feel you give up complete control of yourself to other people and to the world and society,
Mhm,
and you don't have any control over how you feel about yourself. You give yourself into the possibility of having serious body dysmorphia, of having this seriously distorted image of who you are and what you're supposed to look like. So, if that's the case, if the world standard is always changing, if today what's trending today is not what was trending yesterday, then why tie yourself to something that will change all the time? Like, why put yourself in that position to be so easily shifted and moved? I feel like the most important thing for anybody is to tie their identity to something that does not change as often, something that is more solid and more consistent. Some people might decide to do that with let's say like if they believe in some kind of higher power.
mhm,
For me, being a Christian, it's extremely easy for me to give myself up to whatever God thinks about me, which I know will never change. It is what it is. For me, like I understand that God's love is something that is not defined by how I look. It has everything to do with almost like a parent. It's a parent's love. It's a mom or a dad's love. They're not going to change how they love you based on whether you're fat or skinny or whether you're beautiful or not. At least typically, you know so I want my identity to be tied to something that never changes. So as long as I see myself the way that God sees me, then I feel completely free of the world's judgments, basically. And that's really what it is for me. That's my personal like take on that. So I live my life. I guess to someone else it looks like I'm living very confidently, and I try to. I don't really. It's not really an effort that I'm making. It's just more of just me deciding that no matter what situation I'm in, I have to be my authentic self, and I don't feel pulled to be anyone else or any different. Basically, I want to be me at all times. And what I believe helps me stay that way, basically. Now, another thing I would say is that it's so important to to understand who you are from whatever, like it can happen at whatever age. I was 16 when my accident happened, and I had to understand that, you know, me being myself, my authentic self at all times, it has to happen even now that I don't look like myself anymore. I look so different from what I remember looking like, but
Mhm.
that doesn't mean I have to change who I am because I look so different. And so understanding that about myself helped me when I had to go back out there into the world, because I already understood this solid thing about who I am. So I wasn't going to go out there and allow myself to be influenced by anything anyone says, especially now that I look so different. I had to guard me as much as possible
Mhm.
before going out there. So I want people to um I want people to kind of understand that who you are is something that you should be unashamed to be in, no matter what environment you're in, because you also attract people based on whatever image you put out there. So if you are someone who um adjusts based on whatever situation she's in, then you never know who your real friends are either. I feel like that's also another
Yeah.
way to kind of just get friend groups, and or any kind of group, really, people around you that like you but don't even know who you are, because you're just constantly changing based on your environment. But when
Exactly.
you are motivated to be your authentic self all the time, you attract people who you can be sure actually like you, because that's another thing, is like the people you have around you, that they also influence how you feel about yourself. They
Mhm.
influence your perspective on yourself, how hard you are on yourself, and they encourage you or discourage you to be yourself. So you want to have the right kind of people around you as well. So for me, it's not just about, it's my faith, but it's also that support system I have that's made up of genuine people, not people who just always agree with everything I say, or people who are negative all the time, but honest people that I know I can trust their opinions about things that I do, things that I say, where I am, who I am. So that's another thing too. I think when you have the right kind of people around you, it also helps you. It helps to convince you to that it's okay to be you. These are people who like me for who I am. Therefore, if there's like one or two people who actually like me for me, then that means it's okay for me to be me. You don't have to be liked by everyone. So I mean, I think maybe out of everything I'm saying, all these different things, I'm going off in a whole bunch of different tangents. But the important thing I think to take away is trying your best, learning how to be your authentic self in every situation. It helps you get to know you and helps you get to like you. And then after that, as that liking and self-love is happening, you're also drawing people to you who like that you, that like the real you. And once, as you just get older and you gradually learn that this is the way that things are supposed to be, you just find yourself not caring anymore about what the world thinks about you, or following any kind of standard of beauty that the world puts out there. Because trust me, in like 20 years or 10 years, it's going to be a whole different body type that's trending, a whole
Mhm.
different kind of, I mean, beauty too. People say, her face is symmetrical. She has this feature, that makes her beautiful. But then tomorrow is going to be a whole different kind of person that's going to be considered beautiful, the beauty standard. So, make your own standard, man. Like, make your own. Make your own standard.
I love
Yeah,
it.
something like that. I hope something I said helps someone.
Everything you said is gonna help so many people. That was very, very great advice coming from an excellent person. So, what do you want your legacy to be?
I want my legacy to be that. See, I wonder.
It's a
I
tough
want
one.
I want people when I want people to remember. What do I want them to remember about me? Hmm.
Gotcha, making you
I
think.
Yeah. I've never really thought about that. I think I would want people to remember. I want them to remember me and smile. I want them to remember me just bringing smiles to other people. I think that's one thing. I think that's something I would like people to. I want them to remember me and remember how I made at least one person that they know smile about something about themselves. I want to be known as someone who makes other people feel comfortable to be who they are. I want them to feel like I was someone who encouraged people to be themselves at all times. I feel like the world would be such just a much better place if we all felt comfortable in our skin. And I want to be a role model for that, of supporting people being confident and comfortable in being themselves at all times. And I want that to make people smile. I think that's what I want. Yeah.
It's a great answer, and you're doing that. That I
I
can
hope
I
so.
can rest assure you. So, where can people find you next? What are you working on?
So many things. Wow. So the whole thing with COVID, it changed a lot of my schedule for sure. Like, definitely not traveling as much anymore. But a lot of other things have come up as a result of this downtime, and I've gotten a chance to delve into things that, prior to, COVID, and with all the traveling, I didn't have time, or I said I didn't have time for. Now I have nothing but time. So I have a lot of different projects I'm working on, but the most prominent one is my book.
Your
um
book?
yes, I am writing a memoir, basically. It's almost like a biography, but it's more focused on my life, basically everything, things I've not talked about regarding the accident, the recovery, all the things that I learned along the way, my journey basically as a burn survivor, and um, just using really personal and detailed moments in my recovery, um, as a way to encourage other people, basically, and hopefully inspire other people. And just, yeah, I just mean, there's something, it's a very cathartic process, really, writing about all this stuff, because it's also something that I need to do as well for me, addressing memories and things that I haven't thought about in like more than a decade, because I wanted to keep it that way, but I feel like true healing doesn't happen until you've addressed every part of who you are, and every part of your past, and every part of, because that helps you move on even more completely. So that's what it is. I'm writing, and it's probably going to be published like 2022, probably, like a while in the future.
That's
But
exciting.
it's definitely a work in progress right now, and I'm extremely excited, and yeah, it's just taken off way faster than I expected, and the response from publishers has been pretty cool so far. So yeah, that's what's happening right now. And then I also have an album coming out,
You
which is
do?
a really cool thing to say out loud.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
so
It sounds
I'm
cool to
very
hear.
yeah. I'm extremely excited. I've had just the privilege to work with incredible songwriters and producers, and so having music coming out that I can call my own is the most exciting thing. That I mean, catch just if you'd asked me a couple years ago if this would be any way possible, I would have laughed in your face. I just cannot believe I have songs that are going to be like catchy. This is catchy song. I'm just very excited about that. So I'm hoping that, we'll see how it's received, but that's going to happen this year. So that's a more immediate release, and I'm very excited to share my music with the world. So we'll see how it goes.
I can't wait to hear it. I'm sure the world is pretty anxious for it.
I hope so. I'm excited. Be bold, be you, be blatantly honest.